Hi everyone, welcome to the January 2022 edition of Farsight's Human News, the remote viewing news forecast show that tells you what is going to happen, not what did happen. I'm Aziz Brown. Before I go on, let me tell you about our next major mysteries project. This is a project that you are all going to want to see. Noah's Ark. That's right. We've all heard a great deal about the Great Flood, but what about this idea of there being a guy called Noah? And what about this big boat, the so-called Ark that housed lots of animals so that they could survive the flood? Did that actually happen? Well, using remote viewing, we took a look using highly trained remote viewers working under blind conditions, and it turns out that the flood actually happened, which of course is no surprise since even mainstream science agrees that there was a gigantic flood event. But it also turns out that there actually was a Noah guy and there actually was a big boat, well, sort of a boat, that housed the animals. The rest of this story is an absolute must-see, and you will see it on January 15th this month, in just a couple of weeks, only on FarsightPrime.com, Farsight's streaming service. Friends, let me take a moment to ask you why you think humanity has no long-term history. Just think about this. We know that life has existed on this planet for millions of years. We also know that there have been a number of extinction-type events during this time, such as the event that happened only about 70,000 years ago, in which all but only approximately 4,000 pairs of humans survived and reproduced. I mean, an entire planet boiled down to fewer than 10,000 people. Well, I raised this issue because in mid-January, you are going to see our project on Noah's Ark, and once again, you will have to throw out a lot of what you have learned about the past, and specifically the so-called Great Flood. Here, again, you will see evidence of a near complete collapse of human life on this planet. If you look at our previous projects at Farsight, what you will see time and time again is extraterrestrial involvement in control or the enslavement of humanity. The controlling ETs have never seemed to care about how many humans they kill or how much suffering there is on Earth. It's been ruthless from ancient days to the present. What we have today are continuing attempts to secretly disrupt humanity through various processes from war to pandemics. What I want to suggest to you now is that human suffering over the ages has not been a result of humanity simply bumping into bad luck. All evidence collected by Farsight suggests that humanity has been controlled over and over again, and when times come along when it seems that humanity may attain the capability to rise up and free itself, a disaster happens that grinds humanity down to a pulp. Look at our project on Atlantis, for example, in which a technologically advanced humanity is manipulated into destroying itself through reckless activities. Evidence collected by Farsight indicates that from time to time, extraterrestrials act to crush humanity, not only just to destroy a culture, but to erase any evidence that would suggest that humans obtained technological or culturally advanced levels of civilization in the past. When current archaeologists dig in the dirt to find evidence of human advancement, they see only crude things made of primarily natural materials like pottery and the like, but not advanced technology. This is true even in Egypt, where the Great Pyramids clearly required advanced technology to be built in the first place. But again, through Farsight's projects, we know that this is not accurate. What I want to suggest to you today, so that you can think about this subject prior to the release of our project on Noah's Ark, is that extraterrestrials have spent a great deal of effort destroying as much evidence as possible of our true human history. They have found that you can control humans more easily if you can keep them ignorant of their past and their potential. The controlling extraterrestrials want you to think that human civilization is a new thing, only a few thousand years old. They want to rip from your heart the idea that humans can achieve and have achieved great things, and that extraterrestrials are the real oppressors on our world. Humanity solidly enslaved is a humanity with no history. The technology of each age has been carefully wiped out of this planet. The extraterrestrials never want to destroy the life forms. The life forms are valuable, but extraterrestrials do want to control the life forms, and no such control is possible without reducing the possibility of revolt by hindering humans from discovering their past. We were not just hunter-gatherers in the past. Modern-day humans did not just pop out of this evolutionary ape just a few thousand years ago. Evolution does happen. I'm not saying that evolution doesn't happen, but Significant levels of evolution in reasonable measure take millions and millions of years, not thousands of years. Humanity has a past, a very rich past. Moreover, serious efforts have been made to erase the evidence of this past every step along the way. Remote viewing as we do it at Farsight is possibly the best way to rediscover our true past, one project at a time. Friends, you are not accidents of evolution or history. You are important. You are significant, each and every one of you. Efforts have been made to make it easier to control you. Efforts designed to make you think that humanity has never achieved greatness in the past. This is another reason why it is so helpful for you to be watching our projects and supporting our activities. Remote viewing is a way to evade the control efforts of the oppressive extraterrestrials. That we have been able to continue our quest for so long is evidence that someone, somewhere, wants you guys to know this. The universe does have good guys in it. Someone, somewhere, wants the enslaving control of humanity to end, and for you to be free. Stick with us, friends. If we are able to end these practices of control, enslavement, and civilization eradication, we must do it as a group. We need to stick together, all of us. Together we can end this and free humanity to achieve a level of greatness that will be our true destiny in this galaxy. Moving on, for those of you who want personalized instruction in remote viewing, Princess Jeaneé is teaching remote viewing both individually and in groups. Our methods are sufficiently complex that we use pre-printed templates for our sessions, and Princess can work with you individually or in groups as you learn to use these methods as well. Our approaches address a wide range of applications that we do here at Farsight, including investment evaluations and forecasting. We do lots of stuff that nobody else does, and it's a big subject. But for those who are interested, Princess will show you how we do what we do. Be patient in learning any of our methods. Nothing that we do was learned in a day. Also understand that when Princess teaches remote viewing, no one at Farsight gets any financial benefit from this. Princess does this entirely on her own. Remember also that there is a large collection of instructional videos on farsightprime.com. Also, we are re-envisioning our CECO project, which stands for Contemporary Investigations of Cryptocurrency Opportunities. We have identified a group of cryptocurrencies that we feel will survive over 5 years based on probing for adoption using our specialized remote viewing procedures and methods of analysis. These forecasts are available for free on YouTube, but the identities of the currencies are sold separately on our website, farsight.org. However, we are changing our forecasting project starting in January of 2022. We are still going to investigate cryptocurrencies, but we are also going to be investigating other entities, including NFTs, which are non-fungible tokens, as well as certain cutting-edge technologies and even real estate in certain locations where usually programs and technology investments are being made. Basically, we want to use remote viewing to see which are the major elements that will reshape our future on this planet. Some of these things will be cryptocurrencies, but other elements will be related to other types of things, and we want to see if each of those things will fizzle out or become real game changers. We will continue to do these projects on a monthly basis, and we expect to publish them regularly as our results come in and are finalized. As before, the forecasts will still be available for free, but the identities of the entities under investigation will be sold on our website. Moreover, everyone who purchases this information just once will get all of our past CECO identities as well as the new forecasts. There will be no other charge for this. So, all of our past CECO customers will get all the new forecasts for free, automatically. And all new customers will get all of the new forecasts plus all of the previously completed CECO forecasts. And again, as with all of our economic forecasts of any type, including our CECO forecasts, no one at Farsight is a licensed financial advisor, and we do this for entertainment and educational purposes only. Nonetheless, we still feel that as we continue to do this, it will become increasingly difficult for people to doubt the reality of remote viewing. Also, we can really use your help if you share our YouTube content with your friends. Be sure to like our videos, but really try to click that share button and send your content to your friends. Word of mouth has always been the best way to spread really new ideas. Relying on institutions to make fundamental changes in our world is almost a contradiction in terms. Real change happens from the actions of people, not institutions. Institutions resist change. They always have and they always will. Since all of you are people, help us make the change happen. It's a people thing. Moving on. How do you hear about all of our activities that we do at Farsight so that you can participate and get the latest when they happen, including our live streams? To start with, we use our email list and YouTube to make our major event announcements. So there are two things that you need to do. First, you need to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and remember to click on the notification bell that appears after you subscribe. That is the only way that YouTube will notify you about the new events, especially our live stream events. Just subscribing actually doesn't really do anything, but the notifications bell is the important part. But that only notifies you of the things that we release on YouTube. To be notified about the things that we release on farsightprime.com, which you can watch on our Apple and Android apps on the web as well as on your home TV, you need to subscribe to our free email newsletter, which is found on our website, farsight.org. You can also allow the apps to notify you about our new releases on farsightprime.com. Be sure to do all three things. First, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Farsight, and remember to click the notifications bell. And then, subscribe to our free email newsletter that you can find on our website. And finally, go to the settings of our app and allow it to give you notifications of our new releases on farsightprime.com. The links for YouTube and our newsletter are in the description area below this video, and the app is, well, it's on your phone. Those are how we announce what we do. We never send out spam and we never give out our subscriber list to anyone else for any other purpose. Now, on to human news. Let's start by summarizing what happened last month with our December Human News program. We had a very interesting month, based in part on audience feedback, and yes, we do read those comments that people make on the YouTube discussion areas as well as the farsightprime.com forums. It seems that sessions by Princess Jeaneé and Shantae found a strong correlation with the incredible wave of tornadoes that actually hit the Midwestern parts of the United States in mid-December. Some commenters also mentioned a parallel with the eruption of the Indonesian volcano Mount Semeru. I hope I pronounced that right. However, we think the closest parallel was with the destructive wave of tornadoes in the American Midwest. Also, in December, one of the big stories was protests in Sudan. The military took over control of the government in October of 2021, and in December 2021, there were enormous street protests calling for an end to military rule and a return to power of the transitional civilian government. It is often seen as a generational struggle where young people seeking democratic progress are protesting against the authoritarian control of an older generation. This story was described remarkably well in remote viewing sessions by Kahmia, Dunson, and myself. Intysam described an event in an urban area involving a major structure that was destroyed. There were lots of hot and explosive energetics, and some people were actually injured there. That report seems to have closely paralleled with the huge explosion in Baytown, Texas, at the Exxon refinery. This was a major industrial disaster, and that took place on the 23rd of December. Now, let's move on to this month's Human News forecast for January of 2022. Remember, we could always be wrong, and all remote viewing must be seen as an experiment, not a certainty. But look at the data for yourself, make your own decisions, and then let's watch the month roll out to see what actually happens. We have 6 remote viewers who participated in this month's project: Arkie, Kahmia, Dunson, Princess Jeaneé, Shantae, Intysam, and myself. These reports are amazing to watch, and it is best if you just watch them for yourself without me trying to explain them in advance. So let's begin. I will return after all the reports are presented to help pull everything together.
Okay, Rock, look, I want to thank you so much for joining me here with this month's Human News, and we're starting out a brand new year, 2022, if you can believe it, and time flies. And so this is a very interesting session. So, Rock, without further ado, why don't you just tell us what you have here, and we'll skip the preliminaries, as our viewers know, as the audience knows. There's some preliminary pages that you go through to get yourself sort of warmed up, and then you start with some of the major sketches and descriptions. So we're going to start on your page 1 here, S4. And what do you have there? And the audience will have these graphics put on the display so they can see it while you're talking about it. So what do you have here, Rock?
Well, what I have is an obstacle, like a water or shore land interface in industrial buildings that are near the seashore and distressed within those buildings, as well as vehicles, commotion, blinking lights, sort of an interesting target. And I think as we go through this, we'll see this replayed several times. But a large industrial area that's had some kind of effect. I don't know if that's an attack, but some of the buildings are damaged or burning, and there's a lot of activity, a lot of lights, bright lights and activity going on there. So it was nighttime.
Oh, it was nighttime.
Yep.
It was nighttime. Interesting. Well, all right, we have a body of water, and then we have some structures and lots of blinking lights. And well, this is going to be an interesting event. Supposedly should happen in January 2022. So let's go to the next page. And what the heck is going on with that? This is your page 2 of S4.
Right. This was interesting, and I kept on getting a rotunda and a large official area. I got that sense of space, that sense of solemn, and then I had in the centerpiece is what appears to be or a box-like or casket-like setting with these very large columns, large heavy columns surrounding that centerpiece.
You know, it reminds me of Stonehenge. I know this is not Stonehenge, but just it reminds me of that.
Right, right.
That's weird. That's interesting.
Yeah, it was
All right.
pretty interesting.
That's well, it's a signature element in the target. So if there's any way to help identify where this is, this will help. That
Right.
box in the middle is weird. So why don't we go to the next page here, page 3 of S4.
And you know what was confounding about this? I couldn't get this truck out of my mind, and actually I had to go back and well, what does a semi? You know, can I draw one freehand? But I ended up doing a decent job after getting this this artifact. What I found most interesting were the buildings in the background, and I believe that those are more important than the figure in the forefront, but the figure in the forefront has meaning. I didn't do any deeper probing. I didn't see what's in it, where's it going, what's the deal. I just took the picture that appeared to me in my mind's eye, if you will, and tried to as faithfully as possible reproduce it. So maybe our audience can help us with with this.
Yeah. So you did a good job drawing a semi, that truck, and the buildings in the background clearly indicate some type of urban area. Looks like a major, and I think the combination of the semi truck and the big buildings indicate this is a significant urban area.
Right. Perhaps.
All right, so Rock, let's move on now to, this will be your page 4 of S4, and this is a change, Rock. So what's going on here?
Yeah, I got a sense of an impact, concussion. And you'll see in some of the other drawings, I wanted to determine whether it was land-based or water-based. This is seemed to be a land-based destruction, just a powerful explosion. And I said, appears to be land concussive. That's probably going to happen somewhere, but we'll see. We'll see what if it ties in with some of the other information.
Well, the important thing is, though, that we see that in combination with all of the other pictures that you have. Mm-hmm. Well, okay, so whatever this event is, it's supposed to happen in January 2022. It's got an explosive component to it that looks concussive. All right, well, let's move on to the next page. This will be page 5 of your S4. This is very different.
So in page 5, it's an urban area, and it's something, and when I got the visual, and I returned in my session, I went back and then I sat back and I said, wow, is this an AOL? Because this has been such a typical versus atypical event worldwide, but it would be consistent with some of the other data, and if it happens in January, then great. but obviously a depiction of very large crowd. In this, the difference was it wasn't as peaceful. There were smoke, fire, urban area, and there was aggression at the border between the two sides. And as I detailed, crowds, police, conflict, damage, smoky, caustic, loud. Right.
You seem to be suggesting some type of confrontation between some subjects that have vehicles and other subjects which are basically on foot.
Correct. And
like
there's a dynamic. I will draw your attention to the dynamic of a portion of the structure in this urban scene, this ornate rooftop or castle-like something to on the right end.
Yeah.
And the reason I'm drawing your attention to it is my attention was drawn to it as a feature of this urban landscape.
Yeah, I'm not saying this is Middle Eastern or anything, but it does look like a mosque. There are also buildings in Russia that look like that too. Greece
Good
also, in Turkey, and yeah, there's a All right, a crowd, confrontation. So this is not going to be a thing that nobody will notice. This is something that there's a lot of people are involved with this thing. Okay, let's move on to your page 6 of S4. What's going on with this?
You know, I think this is a multiple of the other aspects of the area near an obstacle that's industrialized that has damage because of these buildings. This building in the corner and the placement of those may be significant. I don't know yet, but the building in the corner, I could literally see a corner of it, like a third of it, gone. And the rest was obviously heavily damaged.
Yeah, that building has seen better days. Something happened with that building. An industrial setting you've written down also.
Right.
Extensive damage. And it's within a cluster of buildings. All right, well, let's continue. Let's see. The world is a changing place. Now, Rock, you have to explain this next one, page 7, because this looks ominous.
I don't know if it's ominous, but what was unique about it, where there were a tandem, it was a pair of objects that were visible in the sky along with other debris, but the most notable was the trajectory, the tandem view of these objects, in the sky. So, I mean, that was my key takeaway. Oh, it's not just debris falling or something that we've seen in the night sky the past several years, several months. We've seen a lot of anomalies, right? And whether they're a disintegrating satellite or an inbound object, meteor, etc., bolide. The difference here is that there's two.
Two, and they're
similar.
in parallel. I've been actually hearing of reports of people seeing things falling out of the sky like satellites, sort of. But they seem to be like having a couple of things happening at the same time. This is not unusual. I was talking with my son about this the other day, and there's been considerable sightings of people seeing things. It looked clearly like not a meteor because it's like multiple colors, the thing sort of spinning out of control but coming down like a meteor. Otherwise, it almost makes me wonder if there's some battle going on up there.
All bets are off.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll find out eventually, and whatever it looks like. This particular picture looks like two things coming down. I wonder if those are natural or if they're artificial, like pieces of tech. Well, let's look to this page 8, your next page on S4. Now looks like something's going up.
Looks like something's going up, and it was definitely missile-like. And I say missile-like. The extraordinary aspect of it, it had very, very small like wing profile and tail profile, but was maybe it's hypersonic. I don't know, but it has an unusual shape, and I think that's what we should draw our attention to. That the shape anomaly, which may or may not be quite correct, but it's indicating there's something else going on with this rocket, if you will.
Yeah, it has an exhaust, so it's clearly human tech.
Right.
And it's clearly been shot. And it's in the air, and it's flying, and it's going someplace. Like a missile, like a cruise missile, you say, which is actually making sense for the appendages on the right, on the sides, on the right and the left, because cruise missiles have small wings on the side.
Right, right.
Okay, if we jump over now to page 9, what's going on there? It looks like we're in the water now.
Well, I have an affinity for ships, boats, etc., and the sense I got here was a military type craft that was low in the water in some level of distress. And I said, I think it's warship-like, low in the water, getting swamped, damage aft, smoke, clanging activity, etc. What you might expect if you had a problem on a boat this size.
Now you served in the Navy too, didn't you?
I did, right.
Yeah, so you're used to that environment.
Yep.
We know with remote viewing is that when you are used to a certain environment, you can pick it up with remote viewing and decode it easier because you've sort of been there, done that. So this is useful that you pick that up. Well, and it is a warship-like thing, a lot of clanging and activity. Well, how does this compare with page 10?
Right. So page 10 is, I think, a predecessor to the page 9. Now it came in the actual remote view. It came afterwards, but we don't pick when those images come in line. And I was like surprised because this was high in the water versus low in the water.
Yeah.
And in my humble opinion, because of the damage aft, it's the same view, just at a different sense of time.
Interesting. So this would be the same ship probably, or possibly a little earlier, and it's not sinking so much. So that's interesting. Okay, so we clearly have in this thing some concussive type of stuff on land, but also some stuff going on water. So this is not just, I just zipped over now here to page 11. This is not simply just a rock falling from the sky. Something's going on here. All right, so Rock, why don't we take us to page 11, because this is startling.
You know, the most startling thing is the last time we did this, it was an Iranian ship that had been hit by an Iranian ship, and there were that was a very accurate session that you had, by the way. Right. In that session, the difference is in that session, I think I spoke to body components because it was such a horrible event. Yeah. And I did not sense completed bodies. So the good news, here
by the way, which is what happened with that event. It was an awful event. But go ahead. It was, but this one here.
In this event, I had scattered bodies, complete, with life forms that were very active in the water as well, like in a rescue event. Mm-hmm. So it could be associated.
Yeah, no. If the boat was sinking, they're going to have to jump ship. And so this could be people with life vests on, waiting to be rescued.
And I think you're well aware that as you're going through the sessions, you don't really think about any previous session. It's just picture after picture that's just coming your way. And when I sit back and I compose it in S3, then you sort of have a view. And we might go back to S3 and just look at that whole big picture when we're done with this for a moment, just to see how that, because sometimes the actual placement is instructive in a subconscious way.
Yeah. Okay, well, this is very different though than this is a completely different month and year
Correct.
from the
Yep, yep.
Iranian session
Right.
that you had, where that was actually a Iranian ship that got hit by an Iranian ship. It was a friendly fire mistake. And one of their ships was destroyed. And then
You know,
there was
I will reflect on that. Just what surprised me, it was the uncanny accuracy of the view to
Yeah.
the event that happened, and even to the point of exactly where the ship was hit. And I was blown away by that.
Yeah. But this is a different event, even though
Totally.
it does have people in the water. But your last time you did such a thing that had elements like this, you were spot on. Okay, so let's go to page 12.
I really wondered about this because I kept on getting, an overhead view, and I kept on sensing that I needed to draw the sideways view of this structure, and I don't know the implications or why it might be important or why our attention needs to be driven to this structure or set of structures. I said a sweeping coastline. Once we denote that as an obstacle where the water meets the land. A heavy structure which extends to the water, and then there's some steepness in some areas. It's almost complex-like, and I tried to draw a side view with that steep. If you look at the lower area with a steep abatement or whatever, but it also moves across the shoreline into some formation in the water. I tried to depict that to the best I could, but it's unless you know why that's there, it's just some place. We'll see.
But Rock, that image has some parallel to your first image on page 1 of S4. So, because you have that body of water and then buildings with lights and everything.
It's probably another shot of the same place, and then we would have two preeminent views: the ship and the structure, and everything else around that outside of the urban area is associated, perhaps.
Interesting. Okay. Well, Rock, okay, so what would you like to do? Would you like to go back to your S3 and sort of look at, actually this is Playfair. Would you like to go back to Playfair and sort of get a broader view of this? What do you think?
Oh, I'm missing my S3 on this. No, I mean you can run through Playfair and just show the originals. I think that might be, if you want to walk through that. It's pretty they're very similar.
It's very similar. You were talking about the placement. It looks like the images are pretty similar. I really like your approach where you have these micro images all together and then you expand upon them, each one going into it. Is there anything in particular you want to say about the placement issue with Playfair?
I was actually just revisiting that number 1 by the shoreline and looking at the S2 rendition of it as well as the other, and if you look at that, that's pretty interesting. It probably, like you said, is the same complex. So.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, Rock, any final words on this session? What do you think?
I'm grateful for you to have been patient with me. I took a little bit of a break, as you know, and I wasn't doing any sessions.
You're a busy guy.
And jumping back into this, I gotta say is it's what I really enjoy doing, and I hope that we get some. Obviously, I hope we get some results. I don't hope for any tragedy or mayhem, but sometimes those things etch the strongest markers out there in the ether for us to pick up.
Well, also there are markers in terms of history. Changes in history are sort of marked by major, often traumatic events such as this, and we sort of define our history in terms of the trail of such events. And
Right.
this is what I really like about this session, however, is the collection of unique elements that are going to be so easily identifiable as the month of January moves on. So this is going to be, this gives us a lot to look for to identify the event.
You know, and I tried to avoid, it wasn't a collision avoidance, but sort of the monotony of the day from political discourse, etc. You know, we sort of stay away from that to the extent practicable. You know, I mean, we're inundated with stuff like that every day, but during these sessions, there's a purity in the session that actually gives me some respite to all the tremendous amount of noise, which was also a reason to chill for a while, because the psychic noise, if you will, out there was just unbelievable. Noise was deafening.
Yeah, society is in a state of turmoil right now. And as we speak, we have the new coronavirus Omicron sort of version sort of careening through. Some universities are going back to being just remote learning, like online with Zoom and things like that, for at least the month of January. And yeah, so things are sort of, you know, spilling out of control. And we have also tensions going on in Europe right now, especially around the Ukraine area. And so these are times that we will remember, you know, many, many, many years from now.
Mm-hmm.
Times have changed. And of course, we also have the increasing disclosure issues stuff coming up as well. So, you know, these are changing times. Barack, I want to thank you so much. You did a great job, and you have a whole bunch of fans out there that are going to be really grateful to see you back at this
Good
Human
to be
News.
here. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, Rock. Well, now we have to sit and wait and see what happens, see what January brings in.
You bet. All right. Thank you.
So starting off, I have this irregular topography kind of going on in the background, and then a lot of foliage. I have this kind of large body of water as well, and it kind of looks something like this. You know, looks like a tree line mostly, so it's like, this is all foliage, okay? Then we've got like a body of water like right here. So just coloring over that. Okay, so large body of water, right? Then I've got subjects like all gathered over here. It's like subject, subject, subject. There's a lot of them here. Then there's also something kind of in the middle of this. Okay, you can kind of see that. Do a different color. Yeah, there we go. So there's kind of a structure here on this large body of water, and all these subjects seem to be looking over at this structure. On top of it all, there's also this very large like cloud, and there's a lot of heat coming off of this as well. So it kind of looks something like this. Now, there's this particular subject that I'm picking up, and this subject is a male subject. It feels kind of like a little young, maybe in like their 20s, 30s, and they also seem like they are unconscious, and then they feel like they're also like buried underneath something. Now, this subject feels like they're kind of over here. This subject's like right here. And all these other subjects are over here. There's a couple of other surface structures here as well. They're just like kind of scattered about, large structures, not too many. And then something that looks like a dock kind of coming out here as well. Okay, so now focusing kind of more on like the event. This event feels like I'm feeling a lot of emotions. I feel like these subjects over here are really focusing on this subject right here. They're wondering like where they are, they're wondering if they're okay, and just a lot of worry sets in. It also feels like these subjects don't necessarily know this subject down here. So, something maybe like police are here, or, some sort of group of people out here looking for them, okay? Another visual that I'm getting is there's, like, again, the tree line going on over here. But then not only is there, like, this large body of water that I was talking about earlier, right? That one. But then there seems to be, like, another one, like, over here. And they feel like very, very big bodies of water, like lakes, So there's kind of like maybe 2 different lakes or a couple of different lakes all together. And then we've got the couple structures here. Okay. And then we've got this structure on the water that I'm talking about that seems to be kind of over here in this body of water. And this one, the boat seems like it's very hot, like there's a fire, there's smoke coming about it, and it just feels like, this boat has been destroyed. And there's a subject that maybe is underneath the boat or inside the boat as it's basically on fire. Okay, so the dock, random structures, and then a group of people looking for somebody that's right here. The movement here feels very intentional, and it feels like they are, scattered about, and they're looking for something. They're looking for this subject. They are kind of moving, like, even though they start here, they start to spread out. They all seem to be kind of over here when they could spread out a little bit this way, but nobody really goes into the water looking for this subject quite yet. So I'm kind of trying to now focus on exactly like how this happened. Okay, so there's like a couple subjects here. They all look about the same about height, same skin complexion, like fair skin complexion, average height subjects. And I see them all in like this big structure that's on this water. And it kind of feels like they are not like sober, They do feel kind of off, and like they're not necessarily like aware and here completely, and they feel like overall they're having a good time. It doesn't feel like anything bad is necessarily happening or planned. And then it's kind of this idea that something falls, something causes this heat to start spreading throughout this structure. The other subjects, it feels like they like jump in and they get away. They're not harmed. I can still sense these subjects. But then one particular subject is a subject who, maybe can't swim or just got caught in overall what was happening, but that subject does not make it. And they are kind of stuck here at the bottom. And now we have a lot of subjects kind of going through like a search party type thing, looking for this subject that is lost in one of these big lakes, surrounded by all this foliage, very natural, all that stuff. And so that's basically what's happening here. One thing that I do, again, want to reiterate is that nothing here was really intentional. I wouldn't say that this subject was, purposely hurt, purposely injured or anything. I do think that it was mostly an accident, and there were just a couple of subjects out here trying to have a good time. Didn't end so well, and now they're all kind of searching for somebody that is underneath this on fire structure on this water.
A lot of base surface, level topography, got some steep peaks, both man-made and natural environment, natural smells. I also smell a lot of man-made smells here. I've got structures. On the surface here, foliage, multiple subjects, multiple structures. There's a very essential structure that's my focus here right now, with subjects, both male and female, inside of multiple. It's a very rural / like urban like environment like urban environment with natural aesthetics to it. I'm getting the energy of something very cultured. A structure that's very cultured. There are subjects inside and outside of the structure here. It's very, very prominent and dominant. I hear a type of vibration. It reminds me of pulsing or speakers of some sort. I'm not quite sure within the structure. Rhythmic sounds, pulsing, vibration. I have a deduction of stereo music, like big music. There's a lot of high energy, high hyper vibration, something very definite and definitive is happening. It's not all good, but it's also not all bad. Whatever's happening is very controversial, and there's some detrimental energy. There's a lot of mixed emotions and mixed energies in here. I have this sense of someone being harmed. I'm getting deductions and sounds and feelings of like young people, teenagers or college age, between 16 and 30. I could also not be correct in this at all, but just that energy is what I'm feeling. Party like atmosphere. In a structure that holds a lot of subjects, a lot of individuals. Vigorous movement. There's a lot of inside the structure, rhythmic movement. Again, pulsing, heavy vibrations. Also, there are some very subtle motions that are happening. It is very moderately warm to cool in temperature where I am. I'm getting man-made land, rough concrete struck tar-like surface. There's grass or grassiness or foliage likeness, vegetation here. Colors of brown, grays, tans, greens. Very active life. And again, someone is being hurt or abused in some way, shape, or form. I'm getting another feeling. I'm going to have a deduction of a prank gone wrong or bullying or defense. Just some sort of outbreak, some sort of large outbreak that is affecting the people, the subjects in the midst thereof, and subjects around the situation, and subjects on the outside of the situation, like viewers, those that watch, those that are finding out. It's other people that are not involved in the event itself are affected by this event. I'm seeing a lot of steep peaks, a body of water, foliage, land, subjects scattered about amidst this location, structures, wide, some tall, two structures. It's kind of like a secluded, I don't want to call it secluded. It is definitely an area that has been blocked off for what is happening, for the event. Again, I'm getting this sense of a type of celebration, loud music, rhythmic pulsing, shouting voices, in young or energetically young individuals, Yeah. Here, there is a devastating situation that is coming of this engagement. Authorities are involved. Multiple subjects are harmed at this engagement. There is a death event of some sort or something close to a death event. Something violent. Getting random feelings of like shooting, a massacre, a murder, a stabbing. I am going to deduct all of that because I am uncertain, but there is an outbreak and there are people harmed out of this outbreak. Either all of this is happening or there is it feels like it could be that, like this teenage thing or a political party happening that's being televised. Getting the deduction of New Year's Eve party, things where people are gathering now in this time for whatever reason, and then something that is not okay is happening. It's like heightened energy, happy here, and then it's like energy, It doesn't feel its best. It does not feel good.
Hi everybody. So I'm seeing for my first visual some structures. Structures over here, structures over there, and a whole bunch of subjects, like a lot of subjects. Honestly, this picture doesn't really do it justice. It seems like there's a huge crowd of subjects, and the structures are really just to denote that it's in an urban area sort of thing. I'm gonna draw another picture over here on this side. Okay, so I'm seeing a pointy structure over here, a lot of structures that are more angular over here on this side, over here on this side, and let me just draw this little divider line over here. So this is one visual and here's another visual, okay? So separate images looking like they're basically two different angles of the same sort of thing. All right, and then I'm seeing a sea of subjects, really just a huge amount of subjects. Lots and lots and lots of them. Subject, 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 subject. Okay, so a lot of subjects, structures on both sides, and a pointy structure over here, and the subjects kind of look like they've got not the happiest face on. They kind of just all look like they're various degrees of not happy, just like, or like, type of faces, like, type of faces. So, I mean, you can see my face. I could try to draw it out, but, just imagine my face onto these subjects and type of faces. Okay, let me erase this and continue with the session. Okay, so I'm also seeing a structure in front, it looks like. That just looks like there's a lot of columns or something like that. And a whole sea of subjects that are just like, just that huge sea of subjects that are all in front. A huge sea of subjects. So now we've sort of seen behind, or it looks like maybe that's behind this whole sea of subjects. There is that sort of like pointy thing. Seems like on the sides, there's some more angular boxy sort of structures. It seems like over here, there's just like a big wide structure. And yeah, seems like this is a visual. Okay, so another visual I'm seeing over here, it seems like I'm seeing a barrier of sorts and like a lot of crossy designs on it, just like a chain link fence sort of looking to it. Anyway, just a metallic-y designed, crossy designed patterns on a fence. And then I'm seeing some subjects over here that seem quite stoic, to be honest. They seem like they're have some hard headgear on, and they've got some objects in their hands. Okay, da-dun, da-dun. Okay, great. So these subjects are over here, and then these other subjects, there's far fewer of these guys over here, and then there's all these other subjects over here. All right, just a sea of subjects over here. Great. All right, so you've got a sea of subjects over here, some sort of headgear wearing blackish hued subjects. These guys look a lot more multicolored, mostly darker hues, but I'm seeing a lot more color into the attire that is over here. And these guys just seem like jet black, or they just have this hard exterior clothing on. And there's a barrier in between them. This barrier just looks like that. I mean, you can see through it, it looks like, but it's just like this fence? I don't know, it just looks like a barrier that's between them, and it's metallic-y. Okay, moving on. Okay, so let me try to draw and explain the actions of what's going on here. So I'm seeing this large structure with sort of these columns on it, and then I'm seeing this big fancy thing. So let me use this color for it. All right, so okay, and then I draw the base of the fence over here. Alrighty, 1, 2, dun 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 dun. Great, and dun 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 dun, and then, all right, perfect, great, alrighty. So then let's do these structures in the back. Angular structures seem to be coating the sides of this area. All right, let me try to talk a little bit more while I'm drawing. Okay, so I'm basically seeing these more stoic, more armored subjects over here, and they're just standing there quite stoically, as I stated before. And I'll just only draw, there's more than 2 of them, but let me just draw 2 of them because I'm gonna have to draw more of them in different positions later. And then we have our sea of other subjects. So we've got a huge amount of other subjects in the back. I'm gonna draw some space because I gotta draw some actions of what they're gonna do. Okay, so there are some subjects up near the front of this barrier. So there's a lot of hectic, chaotic movement and actions, and not yelling and like blah, 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 going on around here, and a lot of stoic, silent standing by these subjects over here with the armor and the headgear and stuff. So I'm seeing one subject over here, and he rears up and throws an object, and the object goes, let me just use a different color. The object goes, yoop, and goes right over the fence. And I'm seeing a couple people do this. So like some people are throwing stuff over here, over this barrier fence looking thing. And then these guys, they step backwards. So they move back, and then they, well, let me draw more of them, because there are more of these guys. And they seem to be pointing an object that they have in their hand, and they all point the object up and like just in the general direction of towards this whole mob of people. And then boom, 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 I'll switch colors. They start shooting stuff with technology, with their objects that they have in their hand, not just throwing things, but shooting things like backwards at this whole crowd of people. And then most of the people here just start to disperse. However, there are some subjects that sort of end up, let me use this color actually. So there are some subjects that are closer towards this front area, and they don't really seem like they're doing too well. I'm seeing one subject actually who's sprawled on the floor, and I'm drawing this subject in orange because this all happens quite fast and things change. So I'll draw the motion, I guess, in orange, and the fence is also in orange. So a couple of guys, not just him, but a couple of people start throwing stuff over this area, and then it sort of like starts pelting these guys over here. These guys immediately move back. You see these orange arrows? They immediately move back, and then they just take their stuff and they go, bah! And then everyone here is just like, nope. And then they all start to disperse the other direction, start running away. They all run the other direction, and not all of them really get out of there. I'm seeing one guy, and I'm seeing just sort of like let me switch to this pinkish reddish color. Seeing like this person seems to have gotten quite injured. I feel like this person got injured actually on the legs. That was what I felt. This person seemed to have got injured, and they seem like they're really like not looking very good on the face. Like in the face, it just looks like they are in a lot of pain, and they're just kind of like they have this like very desperate looking look of just, you know, pain and being scared, and looking up at this crowd of subjects that is just going the opposite direction, just running that way. And he's just sort of like, or maybe it's a she, I don't know, I didn't really gender test it, but like still just sort of looking up and just be like, you know, and it just looks like a lot of fear and pain emanating out of this subject as soon as this subject is struck by something that comes from these people. But it really injured this subject. So these people start throwing little things, just objects, I guess. I don't really know what the objects are, but they threw some stuff over the fence, and then all the stoicism here, just completely, they just back up out of range of this stuff that's being thrown, and then just like, and I don't know, it just seems like some people are shooting up, and I guess whatever was lobbed the other direction towards this crowd really hurt some people.
For my first visual, I have a base surface, level topography, a lot of man-made land here, some surface structures, kind of different sizes, and have kind of sparse amounts of foliage nearby. Getting a lot of cold temperatures and some kind of cloud dynamics. Also seeing a lot of subjects outside of these surface structures. It feels like an urban environment. There's kind of like different clusters of surface structures, and a lot of subjects, but I'm also seeing this other structure that's it's very distinguishable from these other other surface structures. I have a lot of subjects inside these structures and outside. Looking at this larger surface structure, it feels kind of old, but it's very well maintained. It's kind of like a traditional type of architecture to it. It's a lot of triangular shapes. And there's a lot of subjects inside of this structure with kind of, there's a lot of sound here, and I'm getting like vibrational energetics coming from this structure, and there's bright light inside as well. Just bright light kind of emanating from this structure. And looking at the nearby areas, there's more like densely packed structures. There's a lot of subjects outside on the base surface. These structures feel like they're not very stable. It's kind of like, this is like a more dirty area. I have like some unpleasant smells, loud sounds. The subjects that are here, they kind of, they don't feel happy, and like not really motivated, I guess. But it does look like a community of subjects, but they're just kind of individual, very individualistic. Like they don't rely on one another, even though they're very close together in this area. Also getting like some smoke in the atmospherics here. Just a lot of different smells, like man-made smells here. And looking inside of this larger, older structure, it's like I'm seeing kind of like large crowds of subjects in here. Like there could be like, there's at least like 100 subjects in here. It's a large structure with a lot of subjects, and there's a lot of kind of talking sounds. And there, I do have 2 subjects that are standing out. They're a male and like a female subject here. they're pretty nicely dressed, these subjects. Hello, tie. And it feels kind of like middle-aged subjects. Have a fairly light complexion. And these two subjects, it's like they're not leading these subjects, but they are holding their attention, kind of like they're organizing, keeping things organized, and the subjects in this structure have similar ideas, ideologies, but I'm getting the sense from like some of the subjects that are in the crowd that they're not able to be their true selves, like they're kind of being a little deceptive to one another, maybe like so they can be accepted and so they can remain here. As I'm getting movement from this large structure, movement of subjects from this large structure to these other areas, and kind of back and forth movement of subjects. But it feels like there's a higher volume of subjects moving from this large structure to these smaller structured areas. Looking back at the subjects in these more clustered areas, they're like the clothing that they're wearing is very, like they have a lot of layers, like hats, and kind of thick layers like sweaters and like big jackets. There's getting a lot of like cold temperatures in these areas. There's wind and these subjects just don't really feel like they want to be here. And I have movement of some subjects towards, from these clustered areas towards this larger structure, but ultimately it's like these subjects always return back to this area, though it doesn't feel like they want to, like maybe they don't really have a choice but to stay here. But yeah, I have a lot of subjects coming from this structure to these more crowded areas, but it feels like they're really trying to avoid having to go there, but they don't really have like the support that they need to be able to stay with this group of subjects in this large crowd. Like it's inevitable for some of these subjects that they will end up leaving this group. So if I were to summarize what's going on here, I have a large group of subjects that kind of have these same kind of rules and way of life that they've been following. But there's a lot of subjects that no longer want to keep up with this, and a lot of them are moving away from this group, even though where they'll end up is not as ideal as where they're coming from. But it's better for them to leave this group than to stay where they are.
For my first visual, I have a base surface with irregular topography. I have what seems to be like a pretty prominent mountain with a steep peak. I'm also getting multiple structures, so a city feel. And there's also quite a bit of foliage. I'm also sensing quite a large body of water. And in terms of the water, I'm not only sensing the body of water, the water coming from the body of water, but I'm also getting ice and snow. So quite an urban feel, subjects all around this area. Lots of foliage. My deductions were like Washington. I haven't been to Washington, but I think it's mountainous. I'm also deducting Salt Lake City. I'm very familiar, and it kind of has this kind of feel to it. Okay, on to my next visualization. For my next visual, I'm in the center of this large urban area, and there's quite a prominent building. So what I'm seeing is something that resembles, I was deducting things like White House, Congress, because it's quite a prominent building. It looks like kind of stairs right here, and it's quite a large, like in all of the area, this is the most prominent structure, and there's smaller structures all around. So I'm also sensing a focused gathering. The first focused gathering appears to be right outside of this building. There's a bunch of subjects. So, yeah, quite a few subjects, and as you can see, they're like right outside of this structure that's quite prominent, and I'm not sensing quite a lot of movement per se, like outwards. It's quite concentrated, quite focused. So when I probe these subjects outside, I'm getting, like, they do seem quite agitated. I'm getting a visual that some of them are kind of like throwing their hands up. They're speaking in loud voices as well. So quite a bit of agitation, and this agitation is directed somewhere inside here towards the second focused gathering that I mentioned, that is in this structure. I'm also getting quite loud voices, so loud sounds, voices, and something that sounds quite booming. So deducts like a speaker, like an air horn, something like that, that it's kind of loud amongst the already loud voices that I'm hearing. So let me move towards the inside of this structure and explore what's happening here. My next visualization takes me back to the prominent structure. But what I'm seeing now is I'm inside this structure, and it's quite large, and so that's inside the room, and there are subjects, and it's as prominent inside as it is outside in terms of the architecture. So it kind of looks like this. Another deduction was Vancouver for the whole overall area outside, and I don't know why. Deductions, there's something about that when you deduct something that tells you you're getting an element right, but rarely is it like the deduction is actually correct. So for this, prominent, like a big hall, and I'm also seeing like subjects that are sitting in kind of like a row formation, and these look like kind of seats or benches, and there's just many subjects in here. Okay, I'll just portray kind of what it looks like. So again, this is where my deduction of like Parliament, Congress comes in, because it looks very sort of official, and like the whole area is giving me kind of just like serious business type thing, and leadership, or summit, just something. You can see why I'm getting these deductions is because of what the area looks like. So I'm going to do a deep mind probe, a collective deep mind probe of what these subjects are feeling. Okay, so my deep mind probes, first of all, there's not much movement within the subjects. They're not moving about the room. And then I'm sensing a lot of frustration. So there was frustration with the subjects that were outside of this structure, but I'm also sensing frustration within the subjects that are inside this structure. And the frustration comes with being in this particular situation. I'm not exactly sure what the situation is. And I'm also sensing a unwillingness to bend or to give or to accommodate. Okay. Okay, yeah, so I feel I'm getting a sense of there are certain processes that are in play, and whatever these processes, these subjects are unwilling to change those processes. I'm also getting a sense of like I know what's best for you. Like these subjects think that they know what's best for everyone, including the subjects outside that apparently are the opposing group from these subjects or this particular group. So yeah, I guess the gist of this session is that there are two groups. One group seems to be more in control and unwilling to change, and the other group that is agitated and unhappy with this particular group.
Okay, so let's draw some conclusions from these data. January 2022 is going to be an interesting month. There seems to be numerous parallels with some of these sessions. There are confrontations between two opposing groups in sessions by myself, Intysam, Shantae, and possibly Rock. Moreover, these are parallels between the sessions by Princess and Kahmia, with a structure on or near water, and unfortunate events that turned the day from good to bad, with many subjects that actually seem to be harmed. So, the dominant theme with all 6 of these sessions seem to be disruption, conflict, and possible death. I suspect that at least 2 news events that involve groups, conflict, and death will be described well with these sessions. Note that the January news stories seem to be covering only a few topics. This makes us think that 1 or 2 elements will dominate the month of January. We will just have to wait and see how this all turns out for the month of January in 2022. So that is it for our January 2022 edition of Farsight's Human News, the news before it happens. Thank you for watching. Please join us next month in February of 2022 for another look at the future of Earth humans. Also on FarsightPrime.com, be sure to look for our next major mysteries project, Noah's Ark, our live stream events, the Farsight ET News, where we focus on activities on Earth, the monthly intelligence briefing, as well as new Farsight economic forecasts. And remember, we do Farsight at Farsight. Farsight is our style of remote viewing. Vocabulary is important in these changing times. I'm Aziz Brown of Farsight. Stay ahead of the curve. Let the mainstream fade in the dust. Be there now.